It is November 7th here. Colin Paget, Founders Metals, joins me. He and I seem to be chatting monthly at this point, and there's a reason for that with all the news that come out. New discovery, lower Antino, you can see it on the screen there. Colin, I just want, again, thanks for stopping by. I mean, I think it's just great to get you here to help us just questions from investors to provide some color, some context on what we see in the news here, right? I mean, so for anybody who's not familiar, right, this is now the lower Antino target, or the area of the Antino property that they've been exploring at. And I won't maybe step on Colin's toes too much here, but very positive first round of results here. Colin, why don't you just kind of walk us through what's happening and why it's so exciting here in terms of the news release today?
I mean, the big thing for us is it's a new discovery, and it's the broadest, kind of most consistent interval of gold mineralization that we've intersected to date. This is something that, we've seen that big gold anomaly over there at Lower Antino for a long time, and always been excited to get over there and follow up on some new ideas that we've gotten from the geology on the ground, and a bit of our own auger sampling type stuff. But yeah, drilling this hole and then intersecting widths like that then correspond or correlate so well with that auger anomaly at surface. It just points to something that's got some real scale to it. And the other unique thing about this discovery is that all the saprolite's preserved. So that oxide material, the free dig, truck and shovel type stuff that's very cheap to mine, that's all still sitting there, and we know what the numbers, at least in the first 15 meters, within those areas look like. So you start connecting dots, and it can turn into a lot of ounces quite quickly, I think, is really how we see it, particularly with the IP, which is preliminary. It's a still in progress survey, but it finally got to where we were drilling. And basically, I mean, IP, the chargeability is the thing that's the really big takeaway, but it's amazing how well the resistivity highs there line up as well. But chargeability with that scale of disseminated sulfide, pyrite in the rock, it makes sense that we've got a chargeability high, and we've got a continuous structure there that spans for 2.5 kilometers, and lines up very consistently with that auger anomaly, and then now with the drill results. So drilled the first couple of holes, and we're a little over the top of what we think the structure is now on that stuff to the east, and I think we come back to that one with a bit of a new plan, or holes from different spot. I think there's some good opportunity to hit some stuff over there, and we've already stepped out a long strike of the hole 3 hit, and seeing very similar looking rock. No assays back yet, but very similar looking rock. I think we're 500-ish meters away in the furthest one there. So it's exciting.
I think you're downplaying it. I mean, it's just another feather in the cap of, just another brand new discovery. 3 holes in, you get 80 meters of a ground. Not to kind of step on my own toes here, but I mean, you've got auger holes with 5.9, 49 gram per ton directly above that. You referenced here, and I think maybe let's just try to walk through this. These are all images from the news release here today. Yeah. You're referencing this as 2 different shear zones, if I'm not incorrect, right? Or correct me where my layman's kind of leads me astray. But yeah, I feel like there's 2 here that just missed, right? You fanning out or trying to kind of cross it. But you anticipate maybe if this is cardinal directions to the south here, that you're still kind of, it's not that the first 2 holes are complete dusters and walk away and never come back to that area, right? I anticipate you'll probably be doing more drilling to the south, or where are you at with that?
So basically, I mean, so you're seeing it right. It's basically in the chargeability you see a Y, and it's the charge high there that we're really interested in. And I mean, you could the geologist in me, or the ones on the ground for sure, would definitely want to draw a lot more lines than we did on this map. But the takeaway is that all of that high really represents potential for continuing to hit something similar to what we're seeing. I mean, just the scale of the shear zone itself, regardless of the charge anomaly or gold signature in the auger, is impressive. And so when you look at that, like with the hole 1 and hole 2 thing, hole 2, which is the one that's dipping to the west there, that one went completely over the top of the structure. And then hole 1 tagged some mineralization, 26 meters of I think 0.34 or something in that just the top part of that hole, which lines up with the auger anomaly. So that at least makes sense. But again, just not quite the right orientation. So we were in that hole seeing, things look like we were, increasing this kind of a lot more fracturing and things as we move down the hole to the east. And I think when we come back there and drill to the west, a similar orientation to the ones there around hole 3, I think we'll come into something. That's the plan anyway. Well, time will tell, but we're making good progress with the drilling there. So,
yeah, I mean, there's been channel sampling along surface, the auger drilling, confirming. Maybe I'll ask you this question quickly just to fit into the conversation, but I think you can in the news release you confirm here, and then they just flip up to it here, that field crews have detailed high-grade vein sets with grades in recent channel sampling of 21 grams per ton. That's like a founder's field crew with channel sampling. Just where can you just kind of provide color on that? Where is it in relation to the results?
Yeah, so that's actually across the creek from where we are, a little bit further west, actually, of that 8 meters at 2.86. So there's still quite a bit to explore in that direction as well. This is a little bit zoomed in photo image from the one that we had in that regional Lower Antino release that we did. Just we wanted to focus on the area where we were. So the section line would make sense from a scale standpoint. But we do have grab samples from north of this as well. And then there is a bit of activity on the mining side. There's some guys north of us that have found gold. I think there's a lot of opportunity for that, and that's a big takeaway. It's like when you look at the auger samples and then grab samples up to 21 grams for us, the historic guys had some big numbers, 144 or 340. Those are wild. But it points to there being potential for some really high grade stuff kind of mixed in as well. And so you're already starting with gram average, and you get some 49 grammers in there. I think that makes for a pretty exciting target. But I will point out that the reason we put in all the core photos and things as well, we really wanted to accentuate the fact that it's very consistent grade through the interval. There isn't a big 20 grammer or 40 grammer in there. It's all very consistent. It's fantastic, especially from a mining standpoint.
Well, and that's it, right? It's not, no grade smearing here. Funny, I kind of started the conversation by not discussing the big discovery hole, but 82 meters of a gram per ton gold, and very consistent. I mean, that's what people that are looking for M&A, the big boys looking for future production. That's exactly the kind of stuff that they want to see, right? Is that nice, consistent, predictable grade, 82 meters of a gram per ton, give or take here. Are there indications that you think that you're close to maybe the center or the periphery of the disseminated system, that you're approaching veining, or that there's evidence that it's going to extend it at depth, right? I mean, how much, just based on what you're seeing from the core, how much are you learning about kind of the system itself in terms of what you might expect from it?
The scale of the shear zone, points to it. It's a big structure. And so as far as, does it extend to depth? You don't know that till you drill it, qualify it, I guess, but you would expect these to be pretty deep rooted. I mean, much like the Froyo or Antino stuff. And it's, there's a structure here, at least that north-south piece, or mostly north-south piece, is coming right into that Antino Creek shear zone, which is a structure that, heads west right through the Froyo zone and out into the central Guyana shear zone. So that's a big structure. And, if we're seeing sheared rock, over this sort of interval, that points to a very big structure as well. So I think there's certainly an opportunity for it to continue for a ways, but that's what the drilling's for.
But based on what you see, just to go over this again, you didn't discuss this in the news release, but what is the size of the structure potentially based on what your IP data is telling you?
Well, the IP data points to there being right now. I mean, it continues off the page, I guess, but 2.5 kilometers basically of strike that we see linked to, or pretty obviously linked to, the mineralization at surface and in this drill hole. And I mean, that data from the IP stuff, that's kind of hot off the press, so to speak. Like,
you cracked the joke that it's kind of like watching a dial-up photo from the 90s load on the internet. I thought that was pretty effective. It took me a second when I first saw these. What's going on here?
I mean, we weren't originally going to put it out because it wasn't up that far. And then, just before, kind of finalizing the release, it's, got to where it is. And really wanted to include it because it's the charge anomaly, or the IP here, that really shows the scale potential.
Yeah, tells the story. Eh? Well, and then I guess maybe I'll ask you, how many holes are you into it now, right? We've got three back from the lab, right? One was anomalous, one was NSA, one was 82 meters of one. How many holes have been poked now into this target?
We've got, I think they're on around hole 11 at this point. So we obviously didn't have the results back right away. So we moved off of that one, drilled a couple of holes to the, and we didn't have the IP data. So a couple of holes to the west-southwest of there, and another one that's kind of to the east-southeast, testing some auger anomalies that we had focused on or wanted to see what was there. And that based a bit on the regional magnetics data as well. So drilled those, and then after that we had the results, and then we kind of gone back after that and started with 75-meter steps on either side. And then we're just kind of continuing to step that way. And done the along strike thing, we'll follow that up with some step backs and trying to hit a little bit deeper as well. And yeah, just keep building from there.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, 3 holes released, 11 now completed. So, and to anyone who's followed this knows that the lab on Paramaribo there, very quick turnaround, a couple of weeks kind of thing. And so this is not going to be sort of a stranded news release where we're waiting for a long time for updated news. I mean, that they see it come across my desk this morning, and I get excited, right? Because it's just, I know how quickly things develop down there, and suddenly there's just a whole huge, 500 meter plus or ore body. You said 2.5 kilometers of potential ore body now, just kind of waiting that by, end of November, there could be half a dozen holes drilled into it. And so, suddenly it goes from nothing to well understood and huge sort of playground to really start to work in, right? So it's tough not to get excited. I was going to ask you, I'm going to bounce around here a second. What's the true, estimated true width? You can see here. I mean, this is just a depiction, right? But I mean, can you give us an estimated true width just for people that maybe want to, calculate their own tonnage sort of scenario?
We don't have enough data to fully kind of dial that in, and we put a disclaimer in the release to that effect. That said, I mean, when you look at the core, and the foliation or the fabric that's in that rock, we're not that far off of perpendicular to that orientation. So we need a bit more data before we become confident enough that we're going to say, okay, this is the orientation that matters, and this is how we're going to do true width or calculate width. But my impression would be that we'd be in the kind of 80, 85%, 15, 20% off of perpendicular core axis for the foliation would point to that. Yeah. We're not like down the neck of it kind of thing in any stretch. We're a lot closer to perpendicular than being, parallel or oblique.
And then, so I kind of warned you I was going to ask you this one beforehand, but so specific gravity, right? Again, it's heavy on the disclaimer and the napkin math nature of this, but if you want to, for those of you try this at home sort of thing, right? So we've got strike length, we've got very disclaimered rough true width. Can you give us the specific gravities for the 2 different kinds of rock that you guys got going on here?
Yeah. So, and this will all come out, and we've got the metallurgy final results coming out here in the near future as well that will contain all that. But for saprolite, we foresee around 1.5 for the saprolite or the oxide horizon, and then 2.8, 2.9 is a safe number for the rest of the rock.
So there you go. Take notes, write it down, and share your homework later. We can talk later about that one. But maybe there's a couple of quotes here that stood out to me as I found to be really encouraging, I guess, right? I mean, the one is, and I'll bring it up here. Preserved saprolite / oxide mineralization with no artisanal mining in the area drilled. And so for me, that seems like quite significant for a couple of reasons. But I mean, for one thing, thus far, local miners have been, pretty darn good pathfinders for you guys, right? In terms of drilling around, around and deeper than the local operations. And it's been proven to be incredibly fruitful for you guys so far. How many sort of, not blind, but, call it greenfield discoveries have you made so far? Because this is, to me, if you're going to start suddenly achieving this sort of technical mastery to step beyond and kind of, get ahead of them proverbially, and really get into mastering this system, and the system just kind of keeps continually demonstrating how large it kind of looks like it's going to be. I mean, how big is this for you, I guess? Is this a checkpoint maybe that I'm kind of over exaggerating the importance of, or how many times have you already experienced this where you're discovering things miners haven't?
I mean, so it is a big deal to have that preserved material. It's so easily mined that the economics part of it really, it helps a lot at the beginning of things. And there's a lot of contained ounces typically in that sort of material. I mean, the gold and quartz don't really weather away. The feldspars and whatever else might turn to clay, but the stuff that you're after doesn't. So it's important having it. I mean, Oko West is with Reunion. That's a really good example. They came into that kind of undisturbed by mining, and so we're able to, drill off and have all of that preserved material as part of their resource, and certainly help their economic picture as well. I think there's a lot of opportunity for additional discoveries, that haven't seen artisanal mining, or even in some cases where, it was mined. Somebody did a little test pit at some point and found enough to be interesting to dig a couple of holes, but didn't stay with it. And in the LiDAR data, one of the great things about it is you can see something that somebody could have been there 10 years ago and is now covered in trees, but you can see that they were there. But in those situations, you're still working with, the fully preserved or 99% preserved saprolite oxide, weathered rock. And it is very, very important to the picture.
And I guess the follow-up question I had for you in terms of this, though, is does finding these sort of virgin or unmined areas of mineralization kind of help build your data set to calibrate future target development? I mean, is this sort of helping you back build geochemical or geophysical sort of nuances or details, or is there value in that regard, or is it more so just kind of a confirmation of kind of future potential?
What I think, like Lower Antino, like beyond the results here and the potential for this itself, I mean, what it does is it validates this model that, these auger grids point to some pretty significant things. This is now 3 for 3, where, there's significant mineralization underneath a significant auger anomaly, which stands to reason. But for us, it's proof of concept effectively that, Parbo is now a very, very attractive target that you probably want to get out and do some more surface work, but then follow up with some drilling. And then it shows us that, there's likely a lot more potential in the kind of other half of the entire property that's not seen any auger sampling at all. So there's opportunity to find more of these, and it's a great first order geology or indicator of sizable potential deposits.
So maybe I think we're just keep it short and sweet here, and again, that's usually for me 20 minutes is pretty short and sweet. But I mean, like what am I missing here? I mean, I guess maybe just to put it bluntly, because I mean, I sometimes I get excited and then the market confirms that I was right. Sometimes I get excited and the market kind of goes ho hum, and I wonder what the hell I missed or what's gone wrong, where I zigged when the market is zagging. And sometimes it's chutzpah, or sometimes it's naive delusion of grandeur. I think I'm right. Sometimes I'm right. I'm wrong. Blah blah blah. This one though, I mean, like when I read it, I got excited. Market is very happy. You guys are up. You're up 10, 12% or more here today, just on a single. And without context, 81 meters of a gram per ton is maybe a little ho-hum, but I think people are starting to grasp that this thing is starting to grow significantly, and it's kind of bursting at the seams in terms of the potential for further rapid growth. But I mean, I guess I kind of answered my own question a little bit, but I mean, do you agree? Like, how big of a deal is this news release today for you? Does this kind of confirm what you already were believing? Does this exceed what you were hoping for? Where does this fit in for you? And how does it change this story for you?
For me, it shows us that we've talked all along about this kind of 10-kilometer gold trend in that northwest orientation, and we've known that anomaly's been out there. So there's been lots of indication, but actually having these results, now shows us that it's not just this 10, kilometer single gold trend. We've got a lot of other opportunities for adding new discoveries, adding potential deposits, and working towards a long-term kind of global resource standpoint. It makes it, I think, really exciting, and adds a lot to the potential side of things. I mean, I agree with the comment there about grade. Like, people, especially like with the Froyo thing, it's like, 20 meters at 20 grams, is kind of, where the bar is set at some people's minds. And it's like, those are great. And, you've got a few of them at Froyo and Upper Antino, but the width, the consistency, the scale of the structure, like all of those things are also very impressive. And and they come together to turn into a lot of ounces quite quickly if you continue to hit the same thing. So, there's merits to these broader, lower grade things as well. And it's always been our model that, from a, development or infrastructure standpoint, Froyo's, it's very high grade. And that's ultimately, it's like the quality of those ounces are what drive the economics of the development scenario here. They're the ounces, they're the inventory that, turn it into something that's kind of first class sort of deposit, tier one sort of asset is how I see it as potential and where we're hopefully going.
Yeah, well, I think that step by step, assay by assay, I think you're just demonstrating that that's clearly a pretty realistic chance with this project. Yeah, honestly, I think that, Colin, we just met. There's going to be drill results imminent here again from Lower Antino. You mentioned last time that, the cattle stay the same, right? Boise, we can still expect more from Boise coming up too. What's in the docket for more drill results?
So Upper Antino for sure. We're doing a bit more work into the hinge zone, a couple holes into the donut side of things. So there'll be quite a bit of new stuff from Upper Antino. Boise, yeah, I said there's about a half dozen holes. Pascal had a couple of targets down at the southwest of Boise that things have gone pretty well this year, so I felt inclined to go test them a little bit. So put a couple of holes into some things down further to the southeast of Boise. But the three main areas are still a focus. We'll have a little bit of stuff from some further field exploration work, but that's pretty much the end of to the end of the year for us. Met work as well, and then next year, the fourth rig is on the property, and we'll probably get a training hole or two, or at least the first hole or two out of it before the end of the year, and be in a good spot to hit the ground running with 4, and be drilling that kind of 5,000 meters a month through 2025. So there'll be lots more drilling results, I guess. Even this Lower Antino one, to be honest, like our plan was to do very similar to Boise, was to hold back and have a bigger, kind of more comprehensive release and just show the whole picture. But it's pretty exciting. So
3 holes in, right? Yeah.
We wanted to get that one out.
How can you not, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, I was curious, that market expectations, right? You've had such a good run. You start to wonder how much success is baked in. I saw the results, and the fact that the market is giving you more and more credit, I think that it continues to speak to kind of the forward-facing sort of potential the market, I think, sees you guys have. And yeah, this is obviously just an update interview, not a whole lot in terms of the context, in terms of who the company is or who Colin is. We've done that lots. This is just meant to get people up to speed on today. I actually just had a friend who, this was the news release that got him off the bench and into the game in terms of buying shares in the market, because I totally understand why people are hesitant. You think you missed the boat. It's such a run. It's easy to maybe get fear about buying high, but this is my favorite position right now. It just seems like that everything's going right. It's just one of those stories where just every opportunity that in terms of what are the potential outcomes from X, Y, or Z, it's always pretty close to optimal kind of outcomes. So if you're just in your early stages of due diligence here, folks, please continue on, because it is well worthy of your time here. It's a very exciting story. But Colin, I'll stop editorializing for you. Thanks for your time, and we'll do it again soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
Cool.
Great chatting.